In this video, I want to talk about the allure of negative states. So the question is, we all find ourselves at times or know people that are seething with hate, with rage, with impatience, with indignity. And they're able, or we're able, to sustain these states as very stable content and contexts, largely regardless of the reality around us. In other words, if you have someone who's furious about something and fuming about something, and you take them into a party with delicious food and all of that, they can sustain the fury and the negative state independent of the environment. The focus on what those people did, etc., is so intense that it obscures the sensory stimulation of the present moment. And in doing so, there is a certain kind of stability. There's a stability in being able to generate a constant state. And this is, I believe, exactly why some of us at times find ourselves dwelling in a negative state. And I think it works a bit like this. I think it works this way for everyone to some degree, but particularly people with trauma. One of the most potent expressions of the dis-ease of trauma is the sense of being out of control. What do I mean? Our state is this, then it's this, then it's this, then it's this, then it's this. And we're buffeted this way by this parent and this, I'm talking about young infant PTSD, which is my form of PTSD. So my state was constantly at effect of other people. And this in and of itself is a trauma, because the message is, if I'm in pain and it's volatile, it means I have no control over my survival. Now, this is an alarm. It's a legitimately alarming situation that I don't know what will happen one moment to next, and it's out of control. I have no control over my own state. I would say that in the evolution of well-being, the first step is to assert control. And the second step is to grow the state towards well-being. In other words, that control is primary as a need in order to settle down. Now, positive states are wonderful. Joy, happiness, wonder, innocence. They're beautiful. They're pleasurable. But they're also very vulnerable. What I mean is that you take a child in a state of innocent joy. Let's say he's tasting a grape, and you throw a cup of cold water in their face, or a cup of cold ice water. Their state is broken like that. Ah, what's that? The joy is gone because the trauma center of the brain has precedence. So shocking someone in any of the positive emotions obscures the positive emotion. Shocking someone, surprising, shocking someone, particularly if they've had trauma, surviving and shocking them will obscure whatever positive state is going on with fear, with panic, with anger, whatever it is. Because that's the design of this brain. That's the purpose, is to prevent, is to take precedent in moments of emergency to prevent death. So here's the problem. When an infant or any of us experience too much volatility, one, when we experience constant erratic interruptions to our positive state, the brain cannot calm down, assuring itself that there is control and thus safety. It creates a chronic state of anxiety and alert, which in and of itself will obscure the positive. But when it obscures the positive and goes back to positive and negative and positive and negative, it's disorienting. It's hard to ground. And so this is, if you watch, like my father was a master of psychological torture. And so, and just, you know, growing up, I became a master with my 4 younger siblings. So that one of my first memories was with my sister, who was 2 years younger. So I think I was probably 5 and she was probably 3. And I'm making her happy and making her sad and making her smile and then making her cry and making her smile. I'm just going back and forth and doing that. You can kind of get a sense of what my life was like from 0 to 5, that this would make any sense to me as a 5-year-old. Without any kind of conscious strategy, we just kind of copy the patterns given to us by our parents in complete naivete and innocence. But as I grew older, like as I was 8 years old, and would kind of do this tormenting to my younger siblings, like I remember with my younger brother, the point at which he kind of zeroed in and refused to get positive in order to protect himself from the volatility of up and down. Because someone who's using power play for what? The sense of power, whatever it is. I mean, I'm not sure. I think my father had an intense case of PTSD, so frustrated around it, did not get any help, and finally just decided he was going to torment everyone in his life with the, you know, the fine razor edge at the end of denying that he was tormenting. You know, that was kind of the ultimate torment. I'm going to torment you endlessly, and then say, what, torment you? What do you mean by that? And then the torment would start all over again, as you'd waste your time being twisted around, you know, so that was part of the torment. So So why would anyone want to do that? Well, it's intense frustration, intense helplessness, intense powerlessness, which are all consistent with PTSD. If you can't get out of it and nobody's helping you out, one of the survival mechanisms of violence and pain transference is you don't want to help me, you're not helping me, I'm stuck here, I can't get out here alone, I need help, so I'm going to have to draw in some more people. This is the function of terrorism. I'm terrified, I'm stuck here, I can't get out, I need help, you don't want to help, but if I steal your daughter, now she is with me, and you don't care about me, but you care about her. So maybe you'll take me with her. Now, I think people who are in such a state of desperation and terror that reluctantly or otherwise, they feel that bringing someone else into their state is their best way out. Well, first of all, it's not a healthy human's first resort. No one who's, you've been raised in a healthy, loving family and state, you have your security and survival in abundance. You know who you are. And it's always more fun to love, to connect, to play, to create, to share, to give. It's more fun. So the people for whom torment or spreading pain and fear makes sense are a very specific group of people who, one, are in terror and in pain, and two, don't know how to get out, and three, are not receiving help. Usually they've asked. And been told later, not our problem, not our jurisdiction, blah, 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 and tough, whatever. And if their frustration, pain, and terror reaches a certain level, coupled perhaps with righteous indignation, whatever, then they're going to transfer some of their pain and terror and frustration to the group of people who is refusing to respond. Now, if someone says, I'm terrified, I'm stuck, I need help, and the help is there, like read this book, do this, talk to me if you need further help, how's that? How's it working for you? Do you need this? There's no terrorism. There's no transference of pain. However, when the message is, it's your problem, not our problem, blah, 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 and the person doesn't know what to do, to be a suicide bomber or something like, you're pretty desperate. It's not fun. It's a miserable existence. You have to be at a certain state of misery and dis-ease that is very loud before hurting another person and drawing them in doesn't feel worse than doing it. And typically someone can't reach that state in a vacuum, meaning they've got to be ignored, abused, no one's hearing them, people are shaming them for asking for help. So there's this sense kind of like at some point in the abandonment, dissociation, blaming, shaming, abuse cycle, the survivor and recipient of the shame, abuse, abandonment, etc. says, all right, I know how this is played. As far as you're concerned, I can stay here in hell forever, or maybe it's even giving you some pleasure, you're getting a hit off of it. So I'm going to transfer the state. So like with my father, he would do his endless torture games until I think it was around 13 before I figured out how to flip it, you know, where he would start to do his lead arounds and I would learn the entrances of the game. So he'd invite me to play, like, Dane, answer this question and then I'll have something that hurts you. And so, aha, okay, so we've gone through that however many thousands of times. We know how this is played now. So he didn't invite me to play, and I would do some workarounds. And basically you end a torture game, if you're being psychologically tortured, when you make your torturer work harder than you do, because you can't transfer pain, because the purpose of torturing is to transfer some of your pain to the other person, and then you get the relationship, you get a relationship with that person by saying, you are now feeling some of my pain, we share a bond. You are feeling my pain. You know what this is. It's actually a call for help. I'm in pain. No one is helping me out of it. I don't know how to get out of it, but I know how to make you feel my pain. If you're not in pain, it's a complete, hurting another person is very low on the pleasure cycle innately. It's like making someone really happy, high, being blissfully surprised, being helped, being loved, being supported. This is all great. Hurting another human being and seeing them feel the hurt that you feel, it's pretty far, like it's kind of like I couldn't get joy, I couldn't get safety, I couldn't get belonging, I couldn't get acceptance, I couldn't get praise, I couldn't get anything good. I've been saddled with misery, blah, 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 blah. And I'm all alone here. And I'm either going to be all alone or I'm going to see some of that go over onto you. It's kind of like number 20 on the list of like, if I can't get that, I'll take that. If I can't get that, I'll take that. But I'll take making you miserable over me feeling ashamed, lonely, and that nobody cares about me and I'm going to be all alone forever in my misery, and that you could give a shit. I'll take it. So, so my dad would draw me in simply by flipping it so that he had to work harder, maybe pretending I didn't know he was playing. And what do you mean by that? Well, it took me 3 seconds to say that. So if it takes him a minute of energy to explain what he meant by that, he's just expended a minute. And if he gets that I'm playing, then he feels like an idiot. Well, that's sending the pain back. It's like you can't just extract this, and at the very least, you're going to have to own how hard you're working to make me miserable and not pretend that you're innocent and that you have no idea what's going on, because that's kind of the ultimate psychological torture. Is you make someone feel absolutely like shit, you exhaust them, you confuse them, you make them feel like an idiot, and then you pretend that you have no idea what they're talking about, which further makes you feel like an idiot, and then you exhaust them even further trying to explain, and you just waste more and more of their time until it enters a wordless state of despair and exhaustion. And going back to this certainty, like I remember when I was like 9 years old or so, and I would play this game of hitting my brother with a sock. And I would just watch him kind of collapse, because he was 4 years younger than me. And I'd say, come on, you can win. Come on, let's see what you can do. But of course, he's 4 years younger. He's not going to win. He knows it. And he knows that I'm going to play him along, like give him a chance to win, and then show that he can't. And so that no matter what, he can't win. And that the hope is part of the torture, basically. So by the time he's, 5, 6, he's kind of gotten that this is basically torture. That's all it is, and that I'm not going to stop until he's in tears. As disgusting as this is, meaning as painful as it is to acknowledge that, my observation is that one can tell the degree of pain that a child is in the parent-child relationship by the way they treat the children around them. And you can also learn a lot about what the template is. So Dad's doing this to me verbally, back, with occasional as necessary. Like if he can't get absolute collapse verbally and stuff, then he may use physical force. Or he may, choose to hide and pretend like he had no intention of doing anything. And so if he can't do it and hide behind nobility, then give up and turn to another victim. But at that point, my brother refused to play, because that was getting on the roller coaster. And he refused to respond, because that was getting on the roller coaster. And he refused to be up. He went into sullen, withdrawn apathy. Now, that is no fun. My sweetheart, who is also a trauma survivor, had the same experience with her mother, that her mother would beat her and humiliate her and attack her in various ways until she could be completely silent. At the point where she just said, come on, beat me. We know what you're going to do. Beat me, okay? You're whacking me. Have at it. And just tuned out that level of violence, the mother stopped. Because they can't have the satisfaction of transferring the misery and pain they are in if you're not showing affect. The whole satisfaction is watching another person express your pain, the pain that you are in. And so when my brother dissociated, it wasn't any fun to hit him with a sock. And the sock was kind of my way of learning from my father, who, like, I was never going to punch my brother. I was never going to slap my brother. I was never going to beat him up. I would pretend that the sock was fun. Like, come on, this is nothing. It's just a sock. No. It's a way of inducing helplessness and rage and humiliation. And I wouldn't stop until that's what he felt. Just like my father wouldn't stop until that's what I felt. And there would be no acknowledgement of it. There'd be like, yeah, this was just a little interesting conversation. Enjoy your day after you're completely devastated, and that would make his day. So what I'm getting at is when this happens too often, and the sense is complete helplessness, like I have no control, I can't even be around this person, and I'm enraged, and then I feel like an idiot and it's my fault, and it becomes preferable to be stable in a dense negative state. I hate you. I hate you when you're nice. I hate you when you're not nice. I hate you. You miserable shit. I don't care what you do. You are evil. Now, we form this not because it's fun, not because it's our nature, but because in the survival mechanism of the brain, we've got to establish certainty and stability and control to create a resting point in the sense of safety before we can build on it and improve it. We've got to get control of the wheel. And if we can't control it up in joy and happiness and delight, we will take it down into rage and hate and disgust. I'm disgusted with you, I hate you, and I'm enraged. You can beat me, you can pretend, you can do whatever you want. I'm holding this state. I've got control of the wheel, and you can't get me to budge. The satisfaction is not the state, it's the control and the safety it means to the survival part of the brain. The trouble is, when we hold too tightly to this, is it's miserable. It's a miserable existence to be in hate and whatever. It's very vulnerable, though, when we've been beaten down into these dark states where that's the only thing we can hold on to. It's very, very vulnerable to start lifting up. And when we do, there is that risk. And when we're in joy, what is it that we feel the most miserable? It's not, why are we so afraid of joy? Because almost anyone can knock us out of that state of joy. Because joy is, it's so light. It's so beautiful, but it's so light, but it just takes a gunshot, a curse, and we can't feel joy. You can't feel joy when someone around you is cursing. I mean, there's that dark shadow of joy. Maybe if you hate that person and you've been waiting for their curse, and that means you won or something, but it's not the real joy. You can't feel joy When someone's sad, that's right there. When someone's enraged, when someone shocks you, when someone shakes you, the joy just goes like that, and it's the helplessness. And when you've been pushed into helplessness so intensely, so much shame and humiliation around helplessness, then we have to banish joy if it feels too close to the helplessness. If joy and happiness and wonder becomes the trigger, the reminder of our helplessness, because we wanted so much to love, we wanted so much to be loved, we wanted the joy of being welcomed, of being wanted, of being seen, of being cared for. We wanted it, we opened to it, we trusted it, and it was again and again and again. And now, as soon as we want it, we feel, I'm going to be disappointed. We feel the programming of our actual experience in response, and it's so painful that we feel so vulnerable, because the truth is we do need one another deeply. But when that need is abused over and over and over again, we try and shut it down. And our win becomes the shutdown that supposedly blocks out all hurt. But in reality, in the present moment, if we have been fortunate enough to move beyond the initial abusive relationships and programs, also shuts out all the love, all the beauty, all the reason to live. And yet it's this base, it answers that base need. I am in control. I am safe because I'm in control. I don't know anything else than rage and hate, but I'm safe. So I've been mulling on that. And so just got out of bed to share this while it's fresh in my mind. Because I've felt more out of control in the last 18 months than I have in my whole adult life. I've been fortunate to steer away from those abusive relationships. And yet I found myself holding on to these dark emotions as an anchor to escape the overwhelming volatility of my state.